it's just like all the stuff without the fluff. It really gets straight to the point.
You ever shared this in public like you're sharing it today?
Not online. Definitely not online. But and I became suicidal. Like,
All right. Thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. So today I got a very special guest, and I'm glad he volunteered to participate because I shared something on LinkedIn this morning and about me interviewing Rene, and I'm gonna let Rene tell you his last name. He gonna pronounce it right, of course. So Rene, I'm gonna go ahead and introduce you, but it's Duron, something like that. Go
yeah,
ahead.
that's pretty good. Duron, Rene
Oh,
Duron.
okay. So anybody that knows me and listens to Rene, they know I'm bilingual. I speak English and country. That's not a country word that
That's
I'm
not a
familiar
country
with.
name. Yeah.
What's that?
I said it's not a country name.
No, that's not a country name. But what I was going to say was I shared on LinkedIn before we got on here for the interview today. I just shared and made a comment that I was interviewing you and Jason Denham, but I put a quote on there from Arnold Glasow, and it fits right here. It's why you're on my podcast today, because I don't just let anyone on my podcast. A lot of people ask me. Most of the time, I just don't even reply to them. I get emails all the time. People want to be on my podcast, but I really only feature people that I actually know well or are clients. And I'd call you a client. Many books as you've ordered, but I've been mentoring you since I met you a few months ago. But the quote is from Arnold is, I'm gonna read it here. Success is not the result of spontaneous combustion. You must set yourself on fire. So for my listeners, Rene's on here today because Rene's on fire. You on fire, ain't you, buddy?
Hey man, that's an understatement. That's an understatement. Yeah, I'm all the way on fire.
Like an inferno, man.
Uh-huh.
One of them
Uh-huh.
fires where you spray the water hose and you can't even tell you spraying the water on the fire. It don't even slack up,
Yeah.
does it?
I like a grease fire. You can't even put it out. You try to put water on it, it just makes it worse.
Okay, I like it. That's good stuff. So Rene, I'm gonna let you just share though before we get going. How did you actually? How do I even know you? How'd that come about? It's been only a couple of
Yeah.
months ago, right?
Yeah, so it's probably been about what? Oh, geez, maybe 2-3 months ago, more or less, give or take. We met through Adam Hoots on the Ground podcast
Yeah, he
because
interviewed me.
yeah, okay, so he interviewed you. So for people who haven't heard of me yet, I do podcast editing, and I edit the Hoots on the Ground podcast with Adam Hoots. And Adam Hoots had interviewed Mac, and I'm sitting there, and I plop down and load up the raw content of the podcast, and it's Mac and Adam, and I'm taking out all the ums and ahs, and I'm listening, and I'm locked in, and I'm like, dude, this Mac, he's like really speaking my language right now. And you're talking, and you know what really, I don't know, it just like shot me right between the eyes, was that quote you said, 87% of our results is from character, and it's only the other 13 that's from competency. And I don't know, that just clicked with me. And I guess we can get into why it clicked later,
Yeah.
but that really clicked me. And at that moment, I was like, man, I gotta contact this guy somehow. And you're talking, and at the end, you put your phone number on the podcast. Like, oh, yo, that's unique. That's very unique. Like nobody's gonna put their phone number on there. So I was like, hey, well, I told my wife, I was like, I gotta call this guy. but it was like 10 o'clock at night when I was doing that, and I was like, I don't want to call him this late at night. And so, and it's I'm sure there's a good quote for it, but it's like one of those things when you're motivated and you're hyped up, fired up, and you make a decision that you want to do, and you know it's going to take you to the next level. You're hyped up right now, but the longer you wait to capitalize on that the fear starts creeping in, and telling
Yeah,
you like,
man.
and that happened to me. So it was like I don't know, like a Thursday. It was a Thursday, and then it was the next morning. I work, and you get into the groove of work, and you're like, well, okay, I'll call him after work, and I get home and. I was like, well, I'm gonna play with the kids, and you know what I'm saying. Like you just start all this stuff, and then Saturday came. I think it was no, it was Sunday. It was Sunday morning. Yeah, it was Sunday morning. And I was like, you know what? I'm already giving myself excuses that he's not gonna answer or whatever. I'm telling myself to not do it, and I need to just do it. So I was like, you know what? I'll just text him. I'll just send him a text. So I sent you a text, and I said something to the effect of like, hey, you don't know me, but I edited Adam's podcast interview with you, and I really like what you had to say, and I'm interested in character development. I'm interested in developing my character. I told you I was a worker bee, been a worker bee for a while, and I think I don't know if that's pretty much it. And then you responded to me within like 5 minutes. I was like, this guy. I was expecting to get like an automatic robo messenger, like, hey, welcome to Adam's or welcome to Max, I don't know, chat GPT bot. Stand in line, please. Take a ticket. But no, you responded to me quick, and then even more, you're like, you got time for a chat like right now? I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's make it happen. So I went to the car and we started chatting, and we were like talking for like 2 hours about character development, leadership principles, and that's where you exposed me to the Blue Collar Leadership series books. And I just started soaking them up. I would read. I do audiobooks. I drive a lot for work. A lot. I'm on the road like at least 4 hours a day.
Wow.
And I'm just popping them in, and loading them up, and just downloading it. Like it's just going, and I'm reading it, and I'm listening to it, and I finish the book, and I'll listen to it again until I get the next one, and then I'll listen to that. I have 3 of your audiobooks, and I've listened to each one 2 to 3 times.
Wow.
And because it's just so good. It's really solid stuff. I've read a good handful of other leadership books, like Extreme Ownership is another big one in my life, by Jocko Willink, and The Dichotomy of Leadership, John Maxwell stuff, Dale Carnegie, what else? Some other books like that to that effect, and but your stuff, it's just like all the stuff without the fluff. It really gets straight to the point. So yeah, that's how we met. Yeah, that's right. That's how I would describe it.
I like that, man. And for the listeners who maybe haven't read my book or listened to them, the books that Renee's talking about, most of my books actually are 30 chapters, 3 pages each, so you can dive into those and digest them easy. And I'll just say real quick, you can actually, if you're a first time listener or you've been listening a while but you hadn't read these books, you can check out bluecollarleadership.com/download, and you actually can read the first 5 chapters of these books. And the one Renee's talking about is Blue Collar Leadership, Leading from the Front Lines, Blue Collar Leadership, 30 Traits of High Impact Players. Was that the other one?
That's
Renee?
right. Mm-hmm,
And then right. Blue Collar Leadership and Supervision, Unleash Your Team's Potential. Those 3, like Renee said, they full of the stuff without the fluff. And a lot of people tell me something similar, but that's a good line right there. So let's jump back. Everybody kind of knows how we met. We'll come back to that, some of your growth, but you talked about work. So real quick, where do you work now, and what type of work do you do now that you're driving, 4 hours a day and you're on the road and all that sort of stuff? What you doing at the moment before we go to the past?
Sure. So I am a construction management inspector at San Antonio Water System, and we drive the hours of driving is all the different job sites that are assigned to you, where you have to go inspect and ensure quality and make sure the contractors are installing our water mains and sewer mains and services, and all that entails up to our SAWS specifications. So for those that don't know, San Antonio Water System is short. The short is SAWS, SAWS.
Okay.
So when I say saws. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's basically, you're driving all over San Antonio, and traffic gets crazy, and you got a job site all the way up north, like the highways, the infamous highways, like 1604 and 35, and anybody from San Antonio knows that gets crazy. So you go
Oh, yeah.
up there, and then you got a one down south that's like 30 miles south, and then you got one to the west and to the east, and one little ones in between, and then they tore up a fiber optic cable over here, so now you got to go over there, and they hit a water main, and now we got to, it's you're putting out a bunch of fires a lot, so it's a lot of driving.
Yeah, and San Antonio, Texas, man. Texas is big, and you got all those big cities. But San Antonio, to go from one side of San Antonio to the other, well, how in traffic, how long does that take? Couple hours?
Oh yeah, in traffic, yeah, you could be on the road for about 2 hours, hour and a half, easy.
Just to go
Oh
from
yeah,
one side to the other side.
absolutely, big city, lots of
Yeah,
traffic.
yeah, man. So you got a blue collar background a little bit.
Yes, so I started at San Antonio Water System as a utility technician.
Okay.
So you know, in the private side, they usually call them helpers. So you're unlicensed. You're not an apprentice or anything. You're basically getting there, boots on the ground, getting your feet wet for the first time. You're fixing everything, like everything utility wise, water and sewer. You're fixing it. We talk about water services, water meters, water mains, sewer laterals, manholes, clean outs, just you name it. Anything in the ground on the city side, we were on it, hands on, fixing it, repairing it.
Okay.
That's how I started. Yeah.
Outstanding. So you said that quote I call it the 87-13 rule, the 87-13 principle, where 87% of our results, our influence in life, comes from our character, and 13% from competency. I write about that. I talk about that all the time, and I learned that from John Maxwell. He's talking about multiple research studies. He had heard or read in the past. That's where he got it from, and as soon as I heard it, I latched onto it like you, and I said I need to be sharing this with everybody. Talk about it all the time. So we all validated in our life, in our professional life, we've seen where maybe we don't understand the numbers, or maybe we don't even believe the numbers. But when I'm talking, I tell people it doesn't even matter about the numbers. All you got to do to validate it is realize that professionally at work, people get hired for what they know, their competency, and they get fired for who they are, their character. That's about all you need to know to validate it, is that. But what do you want to share about your past, or your growth, or whatever? Why did that mean so much to you? And you just go back in time wherever you want to go, and then bring us back up to your growth journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So first I want to talk about the 87-13, like why I latched onto it so much is, I'll speak for myself. For the longest time, the culture, and now I know it's kind of common across construction in general, that there's a culture, a stigma almost, where it's like when people start to do what they need to do to take their career to the next level, and then they actually get the job, and usually there's some young hungry kid, or a young guy, or or it could be a more experienced gentleman, or lady, that they've been here for a while, but then they start changing up their game, and now they're building influence, they're making relationships, they're talking to the right people, XYZ, they're doing what they got to do to get to the next level, and then they make it. But everyone around them, in the their original circle, uh they start saying stuff like, oh, he was brown nosing, or she was brown nosing, or oh, they were sucking up, or things like that. That's how they got the job. And X, Y, and Z, they should have got the job because they've been here 20 years, or that person will run circles around that dude. They should have got the job. Yeah, it's like, the analogy is like crabs in a bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just pulling everybody down. One crab's trying to get out, and they're just pulling them back down, And that 87-13 principle, because I for a while, for a long time, I was counting myself out. I was playing small because I was like, hey, well, you know, I don't know a lot. Uh, I haven't been here 20 years. I haven't been here 30 years. Who am I to try to apply for the next move up? And no matter who told me like, hey, Rene, you should put in for this job, or it didn't matter who was telling me that. I've had superintendents, managers, I mean, you name it, telling me like, hey man, you're looking good for this one. Like, go ahead and put in for it. And I'm like, nah, I don't have the experience. I was just counting myself out, playing small, because I had it flipped. I thought it was 87% competency, 13% character. I had it flipped for so long. And when I heard that quote from you, I just started blowing up like quick, like within the past 4 months. So now let's go back to the past. So I think this
Rene, real quick before you go
sure.
back to the past, how old are you today?
I am 29. I'm going to be 30 this year.
That's awesome, because I always like to, I knew you were a good bit younger than me, and I always just like, to tell my listeners that I didn't discover this stuff, all this leadership, personal growth stuff. I didn't discover it until I was 39. So
Mm-hmm.
You're 29 now, and you've been reading and studying for a while, man. It's like money in the bank. It's going to compound, and you don't let off the gas. But anyway, go back to your story there. I just wanted to ask you that.
Yeah. So we go back. Let's go all the way back to the past. So in high school, well, let's go even further back than that. Like middle school. I showed like a natural knack to absorb and regurgitate knowledge. So whatever the teacher's teaching us, I was good at. Multiple choice. Oh yeah, that's A, that's B, that's C. That's B. And I was really good at that. Really good at school, like the traditional schooling of here's the textbook, read the material, listen to the teacher, take the test, pass the test. I was so good at that. Really naturally good. I didn't need to study hard or anything. I was good at that. And in middle school, we're all kids. We're all kids, and we're all just trying to have a good time. And we're kind of like discovering ourselves, I guess, or maybe we're changing up our personalities to meet the culture around us. But nobody's really thinking about that. We're just having a good time. So I had a lot of friends. I was pretty popular and having fun and funny and XYZ. I had a big giant afro at the time, so everybody was always trying to touch it, put pencils in there and stuff. And and life was great. Life was great, and I felt like I was shining and soaring, especially in school, because I was doing good, and it was cool to do good back then. Well, high school came around and hit me in the mouth. Well, it was actually eighth grade. Eighth grade, that's when people started to, now the word nerd came out, and it's not cool to be smart anymore. Or schoolboy. There was like schoolboy was a big one. Oh, like you're a schoolboy. Oh, you got straight A. You're a schoolboy. And I was like, what? Like it was just cool last year. It's not cool no more. Or,
Yep.
Yeah, and I let that get into my head that excelling and using your natural gifts and talents and leveraging that is bad. It's not cool. Don't do that. So I adopted that into my personality right around eighth grade. So I had my friends and stuff like that. I still had quite a bit of friends, but now I'm just trying to play small. That's when I started to play small. Well, I had this bright idea that
those crabs were pulling you down, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Young kids, man, that's what we do to each other when we're young. We don't know better.
Yeah, and I didn't have strong enough hind legs to kick them off.
I like it.
So yeah, I'm getting pulled down, and I'm allowing it. And I had this bright idea to like, well, okay, this group of friends knows I'm a nerd, so maybe I could get a fresh start by going to a different school. So like not our home school. So I decided I was gonna go. I told my mom, like, hey, I want to go to this school. She's like, yeah, but all your friends are going to this school. That's your home school. Like, yeah, but I don't want to. And I didn't tell her that this was going on. I didn't even realize it. I know it now, but looking back, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to go to different schools. So she, okay, so I got into that school at a magnet program, and that just made everything worse. There's a quote, Tats. I can't remember his last name, but Tats. He says a lot of times when you're running away from something, you're running towards something much worse. And that was it. That was totally it. So now I'm going to a place where I don't know anybody. I'm not even confident in myself.
Yeah.
With who I am really, and I'm trying to be Mr. Cool, and it just wasn't received well at all. So like it just compounded everything. So I'm in this school, and the freshman, sophomore, and junior were really, really rough for me. I got bullied quite a bit. Still smart because I had my brother Jesse Hernandez and my other brother Ernest Hernandez and my mom. They were always constantly on me about my grades, which is thank God they were, because I would have just went all the way off the deep end if it was up to just me. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm still doing good in school. It's still not cool to be good in school, and now every kids are vocal about it. So I'm getting like super bullied pretty hard, and I was in the band and big giant nerd all the way around. Fast forward junior year, senior year, I start making friends and I get some footing, get a little bit of confidence back. But senior year, now we have a decision to make. Colleges. What college are you gonna go to? Well, since I've adopted that mindset where it's not cool to be school oriented unless you're going to get a sports scholarship or something, it's not cool to be good in school. That was my twisted thought process
Okay.
as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid. So I didn't want to go to college because I didn't want to get bullied again because I was like, hey, school's not cool. Everybody's telling me school's not cool. And my family was like, yo, what are you talking about? That you're doing great. Like, obviously you got to go the college route. You're gonna nail it. And nope, absolutely not. No way. I'm not gonna go through that again. So we had a real big sit down where my brothers and my mom sat me down like, yo, what's going on with you, man? Like, why are you doing this? Like, why do you not want to go to college so bad? Why are you so opposed to it? And I didn't tell them the truth about how I was afraid. I was afraid to get that, be received the same way for excelling in school. I was afraid that I was going to get, not received positively. And I didn't tell them that. So my excuse was like, oh, well, the Illuminati, the Illuminati made school and it's dumb or whatever. I don't even remember. I made some crazy story of, instead of just being vulnerable and telling the truth, because they could have probably helped me out.
Yeah.
But I made some crazy story that I didn't want to do because the Illuminati wants you to go to college. It's so ridiculous now I'm saying it out loud. But yeah, so okay, well, what do you want to do then? What do you want to do? And I told him I want to be a boxer. I just watched the Rocky series, one of my favorite movie
Yeah.
series of all time. And I'm like, I don't want to be a boxer. I want to be like Apollo Creed.
Okay.
I'll be cool then, if I'm a boxer. And I've been in a couple fights at school, and I did well in fighting. I didn't really lose any fights, so I was like, hey, maybe I could be a boxer.
Okay.
And like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
And after some trial and error doing the boxing, I realized I had to accept I didn't have the discipline to get punched in the mouth repeatedly
Okay.
and just keep showing up. So I realized that. And then I worked out somewhat of a deal with my family, like, hey, I'll go to college. I will. We'll go. I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot the first semester. And here's where the real meat and potato starts.
Uh-oh.
So a little bit before that, I was working at Bill Miller Barbecue, which is a fried chicken and barbecue joint fast food restaurant. Uh,
Okay.
and I was doing that. And again, here we are, clean slate again. Nobody knows who I am. Now I can try it again. Try it again. And I was able to be Mr. Cool because over there, the culture in that little barbecue joint was it's cool to do good at your job because
Okay.
you're getting positive reinforcement from your leaders. That was the first time I was exposed to like really good leadership. I'll never forget our managers, Mr. Martinez and Miss Mauricio. They were good leaders. It was cool. It was cool to be good at your job, and everybody wanted to excel. So I did good. I was Mr. Cool over there, and started to get exposed to girls and the way I've never been because I've been a whole nerd the whole time. So started getting attention from girls. Started to dabble in that a little too much, and started to make bad decisions. Started going to the parties, drinking, that kind of thing, uh, and I'm going to school now on the side. And fast forward a couple of months or whatever, I'm dating this girl, and some bigger and badder new employee guy comes in, and now she's talking to that guy. And I was a scrawny guy. I was like 6 feet tall, a $158, or I was really skinny, and I was doing boxing. I'm just running and hitting the bag. So,
Oh, yeah.
but this guy's he just came out of fresh out of senior year of high school varsity football, and he's all stacked and yoked, and I'm like, man,
He was swole up.
yeah, he was swollen up, and so she goes talks to him, and we're all young. I mean, no hard feelings at all. Starts talking to that dude, and I take it really hard, and I decide, you know what, I'm never gonna let this happen again. I need to be bigger and better. So, Mr. Wise idea, I'm gonna join the Marine Corps because
Okay.
they'll make me bigger and better than anybody.
They'll straighten you out. I
They'll
know a little
straighten
bit
you
about
out.
that myself.
So I joined the Marine Corps Reserve, and my shipping date was later. And right around this area, the timeline gets a little blurry for me. I don't remember a lot about the order of events, but basically, I go to MCRD. You do your training. I was 3531 Motor T. So you go to MCT right after boot camp. Actually, you know what? After boot camp, I think you go back. You get a week. You get a week off, and this was a big eye-opening experience because you get a
You had to
week
go to
off.
infantry school too, though, right, Rene?
Yeah, it's MCT for non infantry Marines. So Marine
Okay.
combat training. Yeah.
Okay.
So you go to boot camp, and then you go home, and then you go to MCT. So I go home, and like I'm telling everybody, hey, I'm a Marine now. And like nobody cares. Like nobody's like, hey, oh yeah, you're bad. Like literally nobody cares. And that was big for me. That was a big turning point. But in my head, I've adopted I'm big and bad. Which what really matters is what you believe. It doesn't matter what other people believe. But I'm big and bad now, Mr. Cool, and come back. Okay, so go back. Now that girl was trying to press doesn't even care. Like literally didn't change anything, which is good. That was a good learning experience. But anyway, MCT, go to MOS, and then you get to your duty station here back in town in San Antonio because I was in reserve. And I'm back now, and somewhere along the way, I guess I just wasn't received again. I wasn't received again how I thought I was gonna receive, and I just kept telling myself like, why not? Like, what am I doing? What's wrong with me that I'm not getting received how I should be? What's wrong with me or something? And I started spiraling down a path of like victimhood where everything's happening to me. It's all your ear. You have bad luck. And somewhere in that space, I started working with a HVAC and mechanical contractor as a helper doing HVAC stuff. And right around that time, I moved in with these girls and drinking, partying and stuff. And I'm coming late to work. I'm calling in. Um, I'm not making the money I want. I had to buy like a $800 car on Craigslist to get to work, and
Yeah.
you know that was a jalopy. The door didn't even open. The driver's side door didn't even open. It was a Honda Civic, '94 Honda Civic, and,
Okay.
and it was like 2014 at the
You like
time.
those race car drivers coming through the window.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I had to tell the girls at least. and and it had an oil leak. It was always breaking down, and I'm crying to my I don't think he was my foreman, but he was like the lead guy training me, and I'm telling him like, man, I just can't catch a break, man. I just can't catch a break. I'm just very unlucky. I have bad luck. And he told me, he's like, Rene, you make your own luck. And I was like, whatever. Like it just like water off a duck's back. I didn't get it, but now I do. But yeah, victim city. And I went into like a very deep depression. And now I was like going spiraling down into self-destructive behavior. So I'm drinking a lot, I'm partying a lot. Nobody would have known because I'm Mr. Cool. I'm
Yeah.
Mr. Cool at the party. But inside out, internally, I didn't. I knew I wasn't living right, but I just didn't know how to or what that looked like.
How old were you at that point?
Sheesh. I want to say I was between 22 and like 23. I don't know, somewhere in between 20 and 23 ish.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
that gets a little blurry. Those
around 7, 8 years ago, 6 to 8 years ago
yeah,
from today.
right.
Okay.
And naturally, you go down a path of self-destruction for long enough, you're gonna get to the destruction part. And I became suicidal. Like I was like, man, I can't catch a break. I don't know where I'm going. Obviously, another thing, I'm failing my classes at school. I'm doing bad in school because of my decisions are bad. So I can't get the college stuff right. I drop all my classes. I'm Mr. Cool at the party, but I didn't want that. I noticed I didn't want that. I wanted a real relationship with a girl, and I couldn't get it because I adopted this persona that you're just Mr. Party. Nobody can take you seriously. So I couldn't get the girl. I couldn't get the college right. I hated my job, and it was happening to me. It was because of my bad luck at the time.
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, you know what? I quit. I'm done. So I remember one night being in my car and drinking a whole entire bottle of Bacardi Oak Heart. And I had bought a Beretta with my income tax return. And
A
I'm
pistol.
like, yeah, that's right, a pistol. And I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm done. And I was drunk as a skunk.
Wow.
And it's by the grace of God that he saved me. I really give credit to God right here because how are you gonna drink a whole bottle and not feel drunk? I know I know I was drunk, but I didn't feel it, if that makes any sense. And I remember shooting the ground and then pulling the hammer back. So the next time I pull it, it's a sensitive trigger, and I'm done. I'm out of here.
Wow.
And I was listening to music, and a song came on. I don't remember who it was by. It was on an ad. It was on a YouTube ad, and the song said, "I'm all you're waiting for." I'm all you're waiting for. It was like that was the chorus, and I was like, "I'm all you're waiting for." And I was praying. Too. I remember, God, if you want me to do something, if you have a purpose for me, you're gonna have to tell me right now because I'm out of here. I'm gonna see you soon. I'm out of here. And that song came on, and then that just clicked with me like this. Yeah, that is. You're not over yet. So I put it down, put the gun down, and I went inside, told my mom, and they got me some help. I went to a university hospital. I was in there. My Marine leadership showed up. They asked me, what's going on? I told them what happened. And after some conversations, they asked me if you're done, you want to get out, you can. It'll be like you were never in. And I was like, all right, let's do that. Cause I didn't know what I was doing. Like at that moment, I'm just doing whatever just to self-destruct myself. And that, I don't think that's a good place. And I thank the Marine Corps for that, for giving me that option, because it could have been bad. You don't want somebody like that with a rifle and having to be responsible in that headspace.
Yeah. They gave you
So
an off ramp. You appreciate that.
yeah, amen to that. Because that could have got ugly. That could have got
Yeah.
really ugly. Uh, so yeah, they gave me that, and now I'm really low. I'm really low because now it's like another thing. I failed the Marines. I failed college. I failed the careers. I failed the girls. Man, what's next? Um, well, somewhere in that space, I picked back up, and I was going to school. My college was for early childhood education, somewhere in those years. And I had enough college credits to land a job at this children's center, because I've always had fun teaching, and then especially kids. We had like little programs in school where you would tutor kids, and I
Yeah.
loved it. So I
Yeah.
was like, let's do that. Let's go with that. So I got that job from mutual connection, and they got me the job. And in there, I met my wife, who is my wife now, and she was my like girlfriend at the time, but basically, and this gets muddy again, the time frame, but basically somewhere in those span of events, we found out she's pregnant, and it's mine. And I'm like, yo, I had to make a decision. Like, I'm bringing somebody else into the world. I need to make it work. I need to make it work. I can't be a victim anymore. And right around that time, my brother recommended me the book Extreme Ownership by
Yeah.
Jocko Willink.
Yeah.
And
Full of gold.
yeah, it was the right. He had recommended it some time ago, but I couldn't receive it at the time. But now it's getting real. Like, my girlfriend's pregnant. I'm keeping it. I'm not gonna be. I decided I'm not gonna be like my father. I'm gonna break the cycle. I decided I'm going to break the cycle of broken marriages in our family name. So I gotta make it work. And I need some help. I need some wisdom. So let's pick up this book. Let's see what happens. Oh, and it was the best decision I've ever made. Read the
Wow.
book, and I was like, yo, Jocko is speaking to me directly. Like, stop blaming everybody else. You are doing it to yourself. Take ownership of literally everything.
And how long ago was
Literally.
that from today?
It's about 7 years ago, maybe 7, 8 years ago.
Okay, that same time period. All that happened really quick.
Yeah, right. It all happened back to back to back, super fast, super high speed. Event after event after event. I ought to sit down and really work out that time frame now that I'm telling it out loud. But yeah, read the book, and that's right around. I decided, hey, I'm making $9 an hour at this teaching gig, and I decided I want to take ownership of my family that's coming up, my future family, and we need to get out of my mom's house. I decided my wife and my girlfriend and my baby, they should have a place to live. So that's where I decided to get into the construction side of things with San Antonio Water System, and they were starting at $14.50 an hour at the time. And I was like, "Yo, that's a lot more than $9 an hour."
That's like a 50% increase right there, man.
Yeah,
That'll do you some good, especially when you're struggling. Let me ask you why I'm speaking at the moment. Let me just
sure.
interrupt you real quick. The way you're sharing this story, all this is part of the reason that I wanted you to be on here. I didn't know if you'd share that or not. But I wasn't going to ask you to share it, but you shared you went pretty deep. But have you ever shared this in public like you're sharing it today?
Not online. Definitely not online. but
So
like some
this your
close friends.
introduction to the world. Your story to the world is
Yeah,
basically this.
yeah.
Okay,
First
so
time.
and you're gonna help some people. There's gonna be some people on my podcast. Hopefully they reach out to you, or you hear about them, or you get some of the stuff I hear where you change somebody's life, and that's why you need to tell your story. So I appreciate you having the courage to do it, because it doesn't make you look weak. It makes you look strong, and
Mhm.
and your strength transfers into other people. And so I just commend you. It's awesome that you're in a spot where you can do that and leverage that bad part of your life to help somebody else turn their negative into a positive. That's what you're doing. So thank you. Thank you, Rene. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. And real quick, I got to thank you. I got to thank you too, because when I talked to you that day, the first time, um, we were talking about sharing my story because you had asked me my story then, and I told you, and you
Yeah,
were
you
telling
shared
me,
it with me. You
yeah,
told me all this back on the very first phone call. So you
right.
hadn't. It's not that you hadn't been telling people. You just hadn't told it to the world on a social media podcast platform. Okay.
Yeah, and you made me, and this is what I'm thanking you for, is you made me aware that I should tell people, and that I can help people with this, with my story, how there is hope, and that really changed my perspective on things. Because for the longest time, just until I talked to you, really, just until I talked to you a few months ago, I've carried a whole ton of shame, shame and regret. Embarrassment about all those horrible decisions I was making. And I didn't want anybody to know, honestly. I didn't want anybody to know. I was ashamed to tell my story. And I didn't feel like I made it far enough to share it. Cause like the one you named the other day, Taylor Kavanaugh with the
Yeah.
Navy SEALs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy makes me look like a Boy Scout.
He
What he
does.
did. But
He got a story.
yeah, I'm saying, yeah, and then I didn't realize it, but he's only like 5 months out of his story.
He's
Uh,
fresh.
he's
He's
very
really
fresh.
fresh. We
Yeah,
we 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 hope that he makes it, but we don't
yeah,
know because he ain't far enough away to know yet.
exactly, and that's a game changer for me because I'm doing great. I'm so blessed. Too blessed to be stressed, and I'm blessed to be stressed at the same time. I'm telling you, Mac, we me and my wife, we been through it. Like we were sleeping on the floor and on blankets at one time because we didn't have a bed. I wasn't making enough money to have a bed. We were living at my mom's house where there was no insulation in the room we were shacked in. During the winter, you could literally see your breath inside.
Wow.
We were poor, man. We were very, very poor, coming up poor. And now I got my own house, a new house,
Congratulations.
security. Yeah, I'm saying, like, it just, I never in a million years thought I would have lived this. And it's all because one, I gotta give glory to God, amen to that. And two, because I decided to take ownership of it's you, like the one that's in your way, the one making your luck, the one that's holding you back. It's you. It's ultimately you. And you help me realize that I can help people, maybe wake them up, like, yo, like, it's you, bro, like. So yeah, I gotta thank you for that too.
Well, you're welcome, man, and you're worth it. That's what I always tell people. You're welcome, and you're worth it. And the world needs you to keep stepping up, and you are stepping up, and you've been climbing ever since. I always say keep climbing, and that's exactly what you've been doing, and it's phenomenal. I want you to get back to finish your story, but
Okay.
while we pause right here, I do want to ask you, because your first book that launched you like a rocket was Extreme Ownership by Jocko, and mine was the 7 Habits. I know the power of books. That's why I write so many books now, and it's why I encourage people to read books and that sort of thing, because it launched me like it launched you. But I always tell people, Blue Collar Leadership, Leading from the Front Lines, that book I wrote for the entry level blue collar worker. I tell them that's really extreme ownership for the individual blue collar worker. Would you agree with that? Since you've read
Yeah.
Extreme Ownership, do you see it's the same but different?
Yeah, I just got the chills when you said that, because that's exactly what it is. And that's what I was telling you earlier. We had another conversation. What so important about your books for the blue collar leadership, for the blue collar community? A lot of us are working 60 plus hours a week, and they don't want to read a book. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them are in a headspace where they're just so smoked, they just want to come home and drink a beer, or
Yep.
pop on some trash TV and consume stuff that ain't helping them. They're not taking them to the next level.
You're right, because I used to be one of those guys doing exactly that stuff you just described.
Yeah, me too. And I think what's important about your series is it's a digestible thing, where you don't need to sift through all the dirt, if you will, or the stuff that's not super relevant to you. To I'll speak for myself. Like when I was reading Jocko's book, I was in a unique job at the time. I had got the job for leak detection. So leak detection is it's how would I describe it? It's not high action where they're like you're in the maintenance. It's not a reactive job. It's not a reactive job. It's a proactive job. So
Yeah.
we're looking for leaks that aren't surfacing yet. You don't see a drop of water on the street, but you're finding them underground. Okay, so that being said, you're in a van with some leak detection equipment and you're running the scans and stuff like that. And naturally, you're sitting down and you're by yourself. So I had time to read a book. I was like, let's pop this book open, and as you read, you're like, yo, I can't get enough of this, and I'm reading. But there's a ton of stuff, and no judgment on Jocko or anything like that, but there's like sometimes I feel like in a lot of books there's a lot of anecdotal stuff, a lot of like almost like they're trying to cite their sources in a way to like prove to the reader it's legit. And I feel like on your books, for me, it's like you don't really have to prove anything. It's just principles that are a fact, and you present it that way that's super digestible, where it's like principle and then application, and then you cite who said the quote, and then we move on to the next important nugget. We don't gotta sift through all that, the fluff, if you will. That's what's so important about your books. Like I was able to read 3 of them multiple times in the past 3 months.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome. And the reason they're like that, Renee, is I wrote the kind of book I'd like to read. All the stuff without the fluff. That's the kind I like. I don't like the sifting through the stuff. And a lot
Mhm.
a lot of authors they want to make a big book.
Yeah.
Nothing against them, but they want to make a big book to make it look like they got a lot to say and it's smart. They put a lot of space in it. They put big pull quotes and just all kind of stuff to make it bigger than it has to be. And a lot
Yeah.
of that stuff is the fluff. It's just overstating something that could be stated in a paragraph. It's got 10 paragraphs.
Yeah.
So get back to your story though. I want to make sure we get that in. That's good stuff.
Okay. So now we're getting on the upward climb, where I was in the hole and now I'm not in the hole and I'm on the mountain now. So fresh out of the hole, fresh out of the mountain, I started applying the stuff I learned in extreme ownership. So I was a meter technician first, and I started applying the principle of when there's a lack of, I don't want to name drop anybody, but when leadership is lacking, let's say that when leadership is lacking, that's your opportunity to be that leadership.
Yeah, yeah.
So I did that. I took it upon myself to help people and to perform at a higher level, to see like, yeah, okay, so the leadership made this and this rules, or they're telling us this and that and we don't like it, but so what are you going to do about it? What can you do about it? What can you do? Okay, so I did that, started applying that in my job, and my results, my productivity went up, and I started gaining influence with the other members of the team, showed them some things, got to train some people. Now I'm training people, and then I get a job offer from another department. Hey, we want the cream of the crop. Can come do leak detection. I was like, okay, so let's do that. And I think in leak detection, I finished extreme ownership, and that's where I think I really launched there, because, and I will name drop now, or Ryan Taylor. Shout out Ryan Taylor. He was the first like superintendent in my company that poured into me and I guess recognized my hunger for growth and leadership and ownership, and he facilitated that. And he cultivated. He was like the water to my seedling, my little sapling, if you will. And because I'm here, I'm trying to figure it out. And you're just fresh out of reading a book. You're not an expert. You know about it, but you don't know it yet.
There you go.
So I'm fumbling and I'm trying my best, and he gave me an opportunity to teach the other two gentlemen on our team what I'm doing to get the results I'm getting. He's like, hey, I want you to take some time, do a class. I want you to make a class, type it up, and then share it with them. Take 4 hours today and share it with them. And I did that, and they got results, and they received it well too. These older gentlemen that have been there for 20 years, they're not. It's because we got some new technology, and I won't get into the details, but it involved using an app on the phone in tandem with the laptops we had to use too. So it was a lot of technical stuff.
It was a change.
It was a change, and I helped them grow through that change. And I volunteered to do that. And then had I not read the book, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done more than what was expected. So naturally the results came in, and they're like, yo, and I started getting attention from my supervisors and the director. And the director, now I have an audience with the director. He's like, hey, what is this guy doing? And he's like, and then I got to talk to him, and then he's like, gave me some more responsibility. And I'm nailing that. And now I'm like doing foreman stuff. And over some time, the strategy was, hey, we don't have enough spots for you to be the foreman of our group. But what you can do is we want you to go to this department to gain experience doing this. So then I went to that department. I applied, interviewed, and I made a resume for the first time. Nobody does that because you don't have to at our company. There's like a generic resume thing you fill out the blanks, and then if you want to upload a cover letter and any attachments with your certificates or whatever, if you want to, not mandatory, you can attach stuff. So I went ahead and attached something, and right around that time too, I got my first water distribution license, Class C, which is something you didn't have to get the job, but I had it. So I exceeded the expectations, so naturally you have a good shot at getting the job.
You were over delivered, getting results. That gives you a lot of influence.
Yeah, exactly. And naturally I got the job, started excelling in that, started doing 4-person duties there too. And I felt like I was in a space where I was there for 2 years, and in my head I felt like I'd seen it all, I guess, where I had created like a system where it's like I had a system to handle any curveballs, and then the routine work was just brain dead at that point. And whenever there was a curveball, hey, Rene, can you go handle this curveball? Yeah, got it. And it was just the curveballs. I learned that sometimes you just got to make a decision. Sometimes you just got to make a decision with the best information you have at that time. And a lot of people get hung up on being afraid to be wrong. But what can you do? Sometimes you just don't have any more information, and you just got to shoot your shot. And I excelled at that because a lot of people were scared to be wrong. So naturally, you get some attention, and like, hey, this job's coming up. And this was a tough one because I applied for a 4-person position and the inspector position. And at our company, those two are very prestigious titles for the position the departments I was applying for. I questioned if I had what it took to do those jobs, but I shot my shot anyway. I wanted to be like the snail or the crab that's going to grow into the bigger shell.
Yeah, man.
So shot my shot. And I applied at the same time, and the inspector job called me first. And so I got it. And then a week in, I got the job and I'm 1 week in, and then the 4-person job calls me. Hey, you've been selected. Like, oh man. It's like, can I have some time to think about this? And I thought about it, I prayed on it, talked it over with my wife, and you're like, you know what, let's stay here. Let's honor the guys that chose me first. So I did that, and I've been doing inspections for a year and a half now, and
Yeah.
and now here we are again. I'm ready to go to the 4-person job. So
Outstanding,
I'm
man.
gunning for that now, as we discussed earlier.
That's a growth story right there, and congratulations, man, on your journey. That's what happens, that's when we get intentional about becoming who we want to be, get figuring out who we are, and where we want to be, and who we want to be, and we figure out that gap, and then we ask ourselves, how can I close that gap? I mean, you've exceeded closing that gap, right? You on to another gap now, because it's kind of like we say, once you start driving down the road, you can see a little bit farther. So that's powerful, man. There's a lot of components of your story, dealing with suicide, dealing with sounds like your dad not in your life. It sounds like that's another piece of your story, and any of these pieces you could expand upon. And I just want to share real quick. We're not done though. We can keep going, and because you got some good stuff to say. But I do want to. While I'm saying this, I want to make sure that Rhea shares your email. Somebody can reach out to you because you want to help people, right?
Absolutely.
If somebody heard some of your story and they want to talk to you because your story inspired them, even if it's just drop Rene, if it's nothing else, at a minimum, drop Rene a note, motivate and inspire him, let him know him telling his story mattered to you, so he'll keep telling it. And I'm sure he will anyway, but you definitely will if you hear from people. But if you need some help, you want Rene to share with you how did he really do it? How did he go through it? That he'd be more than happy. There's his email address right here. If you're watching the YouTube channel, and let me just say, if you're listening to this on my regular podcast, the audio only podcast, you can go to Blue Collar Leadership YouTube channel, and you'll be able to actually see the video. If you'd rather watch this on video, you can see that, and it'll be stored there. And also the audio portion, any interviews I do with folks like Rene on my Blue Collar Leadership YouTube channel, I've actually got a playlist with interviews, because my podcast is actually 375 something episodes right now. There's a lot, so it's hard for people to go find a lot of episodes. So if you listen to my podcast on audio, make sure you go to the Blue Collar Leadership YouTube channel, and there's a lot of playlists, a lot of different things. My book series that I've done, interviews that I've done, leader versus manager, a lot of different things are grouped together as playlists. Excuse me, on my podcast. So, man, thank you for sharing that story, and I hope, you never know, man. This might be one of those podcast videos on YouTube that goes viral, and you help a lot of people. I mean, there's no telling, and you're just getting warmed up. I mean, you got 6-7 years under your belt at 29 years old. I mean, who knows? You may be doing what I'm doing, something bigger than I'm doing. You may have books. I made a note here because I wanted to mention, you were talking about you like to teach kids, and you got this story, and you do the editing of the podcast, but you could do a podcast talking to kids, talking to teens. You could do kids books. You could illustrate. Rhea and I help mentor you and around doing some of that kind of stuff. If you need some mentoring, you probably don't, but we tell people there's no shortcut, but we can accelerate your journey. And I want to share something Rhea shares. You were talking about the shame you were feeling, and she says this in a really powerful way. And she talks about shame and guilt, and she felt a lot of shame because of her story and her personal story. And she talks about guilt. Guilt means you made a mistake, and shame means you are a mistake, meaning that's how you feel, right? When you feel shame, I'm a mistake. When I feel guilt, I made a mistake. So she had to overcome that shame, and sounds like you did too. So there's so many components of your life that you got value to add to people. I mean, just listening to your story, if you wanted to write some 30 chapter books like I do, look at my format, and I got a podcast episode, I think it's 350 or 351, where I teach people how to do that in a week. You could do it. You could have a bunch of books just like we do, and every one of them would be powerful, and it'd be so easy for you to write, and you qualified to write them because you've lived through it. You've came out the other side. You've got a gap, and every day you stay away from that, Rene, your story gets more and more powerful. That's what I tell people who are going through some stuff. I tell them, bad as this stuff is, if you'll get away from this stuff, it becomes powerful. You can leverage it. And the longer you stay away, the more powerful it gets, because everything you're saying then, it can be validated that it works because you're applying it and you're living it and you haven't went back and you haven't got off track. And so every bit of the teaching you do now becomes very powerful. So I want to jump to the part where, you called me that day, we talked. I mean, after that, it seemed like it may not have been long as we think. It may have only been 6, 8 weeks or 2 months or less since we met. It seemed like a long time, but right after that was when we were going up to speak for Jason Denham, and he was doing his first Saturday of the month call, just like he's going to do today. Like, as soon as we get done with this, I got to get on that call with him. Rhea and I do it. Are you getting on that call today or no?
No, I'm going to take the kids to this gardening little expo after this.
Okay, you got something to do today. But that day there was one coming up, and I told you about it. And it was like, you're in San Antonio and he's in Arlington is where his office was at. And I said, hey man, you can come up to this thing. You gung ho, come up here and meet some like-minded people. And it was a 6-hour round trip for you driving. But what'd you do that day? And what was your experience like going up doing that?
Yeah, well, so when you invited me to that and you dropped the address and everything, and you let me know about it.
And we were there in person for that one.
Yeah, And I was like, I got to meet this guy. I got to meet this guy. 2, I said, I decided, like, I got to really turn it up a notch to put my money where my mouth is. And, if I want to preach this stuff about ownership, and I need to get some results, some more bold results, I guess, more concrete results, where there's no doubt the people I'm trying to help, it could work for them too. So I was like, I gotta go. I have to stop just watching, YouTube videos and which is good. It's good podcast stuff. It's great.
Absolutely.
But I feel like you appreciate it more. You absorb it more when you had to make those sacrifices to go and be there in person. So I talked to the wife about it, and I was like, we'll make it a trip. We'll get a hotel and get a hotel with the pools for the kids, and we'll make it a thing. We'll get some fast food, and we'll make it a thing. And she was all about it, and we got that hotel. My wife got set up the hotel, beautiful hotel, and yeah, I mean, we drove over there, and it was like a hardcore rainstorm too.
Oh yeah, man, it was. Yeah.
But we made it. We got there, and it was good. It was so much. It was a lot more helpful and fruitful than I thought, but in a different way, if that makes any sense. Because the stuff that you're reading, I believe it was Rhea's book.
The Ladder of Influence.
The Ladder of Influence.
Yeah, that's what he's covering right now with his team. Yep.
Yeah, the Ladder of Influence. What was so good to me was to witness firsthand a whole entire team of like-minded people and executives and leadership that knows the value of the leadership and takes ownership for developing their people and has the appetite to actually develop their people. Because I ain't never seen it. I've never seen it at that scale before.
You're going to be it one day. I'm telling you, you're going to be that.
Saying.
You're going to be just like Jason, I imagine. I've been mentoring him for about 11 years now, and I'm going to get on that call today online and listen and watch him do it again today. We get on every month, and then actually when we get done, I got to go do an interview just like this with Jason. Haven't done one with him in about 4 years. So anybody listening, there's going to be an interview with Jason that he's talking about now, that Renee's talking about, and that I'm talking about. Okay, jump back in your story. I wanted to share that real quick.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, like I never seen it. And I didn't know what it looks like. I've only ever seen it like peppered across throughout our company. And no shame on our company. We're operating at a high level, I would say. We're a big water system. And what they're doing works. It's working in the fact that they're getting results. but we could do better. I think we can do better. We can keep people and get like exponentially more results if we were to invest some more time in the folks doing the work.
Yeah.
I think historically it's been like, we're getting results, and then people are upset. Large groups of people are upset about the pay, and then they give them a little bit more pay, and then okay, now we get more results, and then pay more result, and then we'll lose a bunch of people, and then we get more pay. But I think implanting some leadership, making people want to work for you instead of them having to work for you is going to be a game changer for us. And it starts with me. Like if nobody's doing it, I got to do it.
That's right.
And I'm doing it little by little, and being exposed to that and seeing it's possible. Because I was hung up on, can I do it or can I not do it? Do I have what it takes to do it? And now I know it's possible. So it's kind of irrelevant if I can or can't. It's possible. It is possible. So I need to figure out how I'm going to do that. And that's where I'm at right now.
That's phenomenal, man. And I really appreciate it. I'm glad you came up that day. Got to meet you. Several folks. Somebody else that Assad. He drove up too from San Antonio, and I'm gonna be interviewing him actually tomorrow like this. So
awesome.
And Aaron, the towboat driver who drives pushes the barges up the Mississippi River. He's a captain on one of those big tugs or towboats they call them, and gonna get him too once he gets off that boat. He just got back on the boat for a month, but when he gets off, so a lot of you guys that was in the room, 4 right there, you guys are gonna have interviews like this, and it's just powerful. I just appreciate you leveraging who you are to help me and motivate and inspire people. That's why I invited you, and that's why I cherry pick people. I don't just get anybody who wants to be on my podcast because I'm very intentional. I want people who are working on their character, who want to have a better life, who want to help other people have a better life. I don't care where they're at in their journey. I don't care if they've been doing it, a couple of months or a couple of years or a couple of decades. That's the kind of people I want. I don't expect perfect people. I just expect people who want to be growing and getting better and helping other people do the same. So you got anything else you want to share that I didn't ask about or you didn't talk about?
I mean, no, not that we didn't talk about, but just, I mean, if anybody's struggling in that regard, or, maybe they don't believe that they don't have any control over what they're going through or whatever, if they just want to talk or get more clarification on my story, I'm open. I'm open. How do you say it? I'm open, but I'm not always available.
Yeah, that's what I say because it's the truth. I'm always open, but I ain't always available. Right now, I'm wide open. Me and you've been talking for an hour. I'm wide open, but I ain't available to anybody else, right?
Yeah, so that one, I'm always open, but I'm not always available. But I can become available. So,
okay, so
if they want to hit me up, they can.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were speaking.
No, I was just saying, like, if they want to hit me up and send me an email, they can, and I will respond.
Okay, so to wrap up today's episode, I just want to ask you real quick, put you on the spot, but if you don't have a quick answer, that's okay too. But out of those 3 books of mine that you went through, is there any one of those that is your favorite? And then out of all 3 of them, what's the biggest gold nugget that you've taken away from my content that really sticks?
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's a good one. I'm gonna have to say the blue collar leadership and was it teamwork? Leadership and teamwork.
The yellow and black book.
Yes,
yep.
That one is good. That's so good. And the nugget is, I believe it was a quote from Peyton Manning, where he was like, the most valuable player on the team is the one that makes the most players valuable, right? Something
Perfect.
like that.
That's exactly it. You're a sponge, man. That's what I'm telling you. you gotta drop this stuff on everybody, man. You got to put it in a book. You got to do all this stuff. You prepared.
Thank you, Mac. That means a lot to me. But
have you ever listened to the podcast series on the teamwork book?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so for my listeners, I've got a 30-part podcast series that starts at I think it's 317. But again, you can go to the YouTube Blue Collar Leadership channel and look for the playlist by that book title, and also someone can find that really easy. Well, all right, Rene, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And I really, really appreciate you sharing your story. And, this will be out in a couple of weeks. I'll let you know when. I'll tag you when it goes out and that sort of stuff. And you can share it. And hopefully you can share it in the future. There's no telling where you're going to go professionally. But as you go, I just want to share with you, when you grow and you go into new positions, maybe you take over a team somewhere that maybe hadn't been your team before, even if it's a peer level, even if it's not you're the boss, but it doesn't matter if you're the boss or not. But you can share this with people so they know who you are, because it'll allow you to connect with people. Because everybody you meet, you ain't going to have time to take an hour and 10 minutes or whatever and tell a story to them, right? But if I was you and I became a leader of a team of people, I'd want to share this with everybody. Say, hey, you want to know where I'm coming from? This is who I am. Because when people hear that story, they're going to see you different. Everything you do and say is going to be on top of your story. Like I tell Rhea all the time, everything she does, it means more to people when they know her story. And it's the same way. What you say and what you do is going to mean more to people when they know your story. So maybe you'll get out and tell this story a lot of other places, and you'll have a lot of other episodes you can share, but you're going to have this one for sure. So thank you very much for being on the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today.
And thank you for having me, Mac. I'm excited to get whatever's coming to me.
Well, it's coming. Well, all right, folks. I appreciate everyone listening. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you reach out to Rene. Also, you can reach out to me just like Rene did. I'm available, but I'm always open, but I ain't always available. And I just tell you right here, my cell phone's 334-728-4143. And some people say, why you tell your number all the time? Because I want people to call me. That's why I want to help people, just like Rene. Like if Rene wouldn't have called me, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I wouldn't have been able to motivate and inspire him. I couldn't have played a small role in his big picture, but he did call me. So if you think I can help you relative to personal growth and leadership development, reach out to me. And otherwise, talk to you next time.